Mr. Matt Brown in the house this morning, District 6 Yakima City Council candidate.
You're not putting words in his mouth.
No. But yeah, you understand the frustrations that Americans are going through. What he's talking about here, the CRT, this Merrick Garland stuff.
Yeah.
I know you do.
I mean, I'm just as frustrated.
I know you are. Mr. Matt Brown, welcome to the studio this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Our assumption is you've never been here before.
Yeah.
On behalf of all the listeners that are out there that haven't heard you, missed a segment, or didn't catch it when we had it posted, and we're going to post this online as well, so
Awesome.
people will be able to come back to this. So we're getting the information as a reinforcement. So tell us about Matt Brown, who you is, what you do, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I'm Matt Brown. I'm running for Yakima City Council in District 6. I'm a pastor and small business owner, and I have I have my wonderful family. I married my high school sweetheart, and we have two wonderful kids, Hudson and Lily. And, why I'm running is a simple one for me. As a pastor who cares about this community, and as a dad who cares about the future for my family and other families around, our community has been going in the wrong direction for far too long, and the only way I know how to fix that is to get involved and to jump in and get my hands on the issues that are at hand. And so that's why I'm in it, and I want to build a better future for all of our families, all of our kids, and get a handle on all this crime, homelessness, housing issues, all of it.
Oh, Matt, you're just going to bring all that religiosity in here, and you can hear the critics saying that now. What's the response to that?
In regards to my faith and religious,
Politics and religion.
You live your faith.
Aren't we
Yeah.
supposed to keep those two separate? What are you doing, Matt Brown?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, we are supposed to keep them separate, but that's separate as in policy. How I govern my own life morality-wise is based upon my biblical faith. And how I would discern and figure out how to solve these issues is how I would represent the people of Yakima on the front of what is constitutional.
Where are you a pastor?
I'm over at Yakima Foursquare.
Okay.
I've been there for about 14 years now, and
We see you every Sunday morning. Are you?
yeah, I'm not the preaching folks.
Okay.
I'm the guy who's making sure everything works around
Right on.
there.
Right
So I oversee. I'm kind of the operations guy.
Gotcha.
I'm the operations pastor. So basically, anything that's going on in that place, I have my
You know
hands
about
on.
it.
Yeah.
You know
Guitar's
about
out of tune.
That's
If a
right.
slide
on the
doesn't
tech
appear on the
side,
screen.
on the building side.
Right on. What business do you own?
I own a production company here in town called Foresight Productions. So we've been in business for about 10 years now, actually a little over that. And, which has not been an easy feat in a production world because most production companies don't actually last that long around here.
Yeah, are making commercials and just
Making
variety of-
commercials, we
variety of
do.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
mean, we
Industrial
kind
things.
of cut our bread and butter in the wedding industry.
Oh.
We did a lot of videos for couples throughout the years. We actually won a couple awards for being one of the best videography companies, highest reviewed in the nation.
Nice.
So yeah,
Busy
that's,
man. Woo, busy man. Jeez.
Also, watching the when he's on council, if he gets there, the YPAC will be like a much improved production.
Hey, let's hope so. I'm going to just jump right to it. I'm going to assume that you're conservative.
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm the only conservative in this race.
You're not on the progressive guide. We googled that, so
But they
you're
do
not
have
there.
stuff to say about you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they don't like me too much.
And
Boy, I
think
guess
that if-
not.
Since we presented that to Ms. Wallace, we need to present it to you. Her opponent, Matt Brown, describes himself as a Christian. You just agree with what they get right about this, okay? Christian, yes.
Yeah.
Small business owner, yes.
Yep.
Who helps churches utilize technology to spread the gospel, yes.
Yep.
Much of his campaign is focused on the conservative agenda of promoting businesses, yes.
Yes.
Reducing spending, though he does not describe what city services will be cut to reduce that spending. So, Lance, bookmark that. We're coming back to it. Brown is also endorsed by a right-wing group that wants to remove historically accurate lessons from schools and to promote Trump-style politics and anti-vaccine fear-mongering. Ergo, the progressive voters guide says Wallace is the better choice. So let's go back to that. Are you? I heard your ads. You're on our air talking about trying to reduce taxes. There's not a whole lot of taxation that the city's directly in control of, but what might you try to do in that arena?
Well, it's more about looking at the budget as a whole and figuring out where is excess spending happening. Right now we have a huge public safety issue with our fire and police.
Right.
And for example, I door knocked a firefighter's house, and he was telling me he's using equipment that's actually past the legal limit of going into a fire.
Older than it should be, past
older,
shelf life kind of stuff.
And that's ridiculous. From a city perspective, we can't allow the folks that are protecting us, either by putting out the fires when our houses are on fire, or coming to our aid when we have violence going on.
But that sounds like spending more money, not less.
Correct. Well, that's what I'm saying, though. We would look at the budget and find where we can cut, and also not necessarily cut. I really am interested in raising revenue, and by doing that, it's not taxing. It's looking at how we can, one, increase our small business culture in our city. We about 2 years ago, there was actually a group called Fulcrum that was around. I don't know if you guys remember them. During COVID, they kind of disbanded. But one of the things that was great in that movement was just the sheer amount of entrepreneurs our community was trying to grow and develop.
Yeah.
If you look at our business permitting right now in our city, it's kind of a mess, and it's also kind of stagnating business growth. Trying to bring business downtown is not an easy task. Trying to bring business anywhere in the city is not an easy task. I, for myself, just to answer emails at my house as a business owner, I had to ask for an occupational rezoning for my home, which increased my permit about 10x on that. And I don't bring customers to my house. I don't do any of that. It's literally just emails. So for me, it's looking at how can we streamline that business permitting piece, looking at it, even going, hey, can we, especially during the age of COVID where businesses have been just completely ransacked by government across our state, is there a way for us to even do a holiday of sorts for our businesses and permitting and increase business growth?
Some places have done that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they have.
why
Yeah.
couldn't we?
Yeah.
Which brings us to the question of COVID and mandates, masks. This says, not that they're the guideline and our only source of questioning, but it does say Trump-style politics and anti-vaccine fear-mongering. You mongerer, tell us what you're doing to monger fear.
Standing up for people's individual rights, I guess, is called fear-mongering on the other side. For me, it's not about the masking or vaccine that is the issue. It's the fact that someone is telling you how to live your life, every part of your life. To be able to go to work, you need this. To be able to shop, to be able to go out and eat dinner, you have to do this, that, and this. And to me, that's those mandates aren't protecting people. They are actually removing individual freedoms, and I'm against that 100%.
Take a quick break. We'll get some news. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Matt Brown. Matt, we're going to be talking to you about what you're hearing from, what other things are you hearing from your folks in your district? How you feel about housing, gang crime, homelessness, a whole bunch of other issues that we'll be covering with you when we come back. Mr. Matt Brown from District 6. Thanks for coming in, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
We talked a little bit about what maybe one of the people in your district had to say to you. But what are you hearing? What are you hearing from people? What are their main concerns these days?
A lot of people out in District 6, they're really frustrated with the amount of violence that's going on in our community right now. And the lack of accountability to figuring out what is the issue. Yakima's always been known as the first in all the wrong categories, right? We're first in crime in the nation. We're first in, all of the drugs and all of that. And the people are sick and tired of it. They love the community they live in, and they're sick and tired of what's the deal with this violence. And to me, it's an accountability issue. We have to look at what are we doing as a system or a plan.
Do you think there's a plan out there? Do you feel that the chief is doing what needs to be done to attack this problem?
I definitely believe there's a plan. I'm not in those executive meetings knowing that plan, and rightfully so. He shouldn't be discussing that plan necessarily. But because then if you know the plan, you can beat the plan.
Sure.
I do want to see a measurable change every year in crime. I want to see our stats every year, if elected. I want to see our crime stats drop.
So what do we need to do differently than we're doing now then?
Well, first, we need to fully employ our police department. Right now, we have a budget of about 200 plus officers, but we don't have that many officers. So we have about 125 to 135 officers total. And in a city this size, and then if you count in our county with our sheriff's department, which only has about between 45 and 50 deputies, we are severely understaffed in our town. Not just for typical traffic violations either. I mean, just in general, there's just not enough officers to go around to actually, focus on this violent crime that's going on.
So do we think, though, Matt, that the presence of more officers, I mean, if I'm a gang kid, there's a lot of reasons that I am. Took me to why I'm there, why I feel I need to pull the trigger, and just having more cops on the force. Will that impact? Or are there some other? Lance is shaking his head. Yeah.
Yes.
Couldn't hurt.
That's right. Put a little emphasis patrol out there.
Yeah. Is that the kind of thing we're thinking
Yeah, I mean,
about?
statistically speaking, if you're looking across the nation, when there's more of a police presence in areas of violence and violent crimes going on, statistically crime drops. Also, if you have more police out on the roads doing routine traffic stops, typically what ends up happening is they do a routine traffic stop and they actually find other things going on.
Exactly.
I've actually talked to a couple people out in District 6 who are like, there's just not enough police to actually even do that part, and they don't understand why. So that crime is a huge issue, but there's also another piece of this puzzle that is happening, right? There's in COVID, it stopped a lot of our gang prevention measures that we had going on, stuff that had been in place for years that had actually started to make some sort of a difference back. We started to see crime drop about 4 or 5 years ago a little bit, started to dip. And then COVID hit, and what it did is it kind of hunkered down and stopped a lot of the groups, ministries that are going on in town from actually doing the work. And and it actually cut a lot of their funding too as well. So they're nonprofit based. They're trying to get things done, and it just completely shot them. I mean, one of the projects that I'm talking about is called Love Project. His whole thing is getting gang members together, rival gang members together, and playing basketball. Well, it's kind of hard to play basketball in the middle of COVID indoors because everything was shut down.
Sure.
And so what have these gang kids been doing? Well, they're still hanging out with each other. Let me just tell you. They're hanging out with each other.
Sure.
They're still doing that.
They're not staying 6 feet apart, are they?
No.
No, they're not.
And instead of being in a healthy atmosphere, they haven't been. So for me, we have to partner with our faith community on figuring out, because they have the answers and they have the people. People in the faith community want to solve these problems, and they want to help. And they want to serve, and they want to do that stuff. And so we as a city need to go, okay, what can we do to help you guys? Is it buildings? Is it what can we do? Because this is a huge problem our community is facing. So it starts with prevention, and it's then the policing piece of that.
Facilitating the process
Correct.
of making it work from the outside, people that want to jump in. So
Right.
I hear you, man.
I'm losing my mind. Did we talk to you about COVID yet?
Ish.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I apologize for being screwed. How do you think the city's handled COVID? Do you back the mandates? Do you the mandates for vaccine and masking, stuff like that?
So with the mandates, I don't back the mandates because of individual freedoms. In my mind, statistically speaking, if we look across the nation, the states, I mean, a lot of the other side wants to point at Florida as one of these issues of, they've opened, they've reduced all their mandates, they've done all this stuff, and they have these high numbers. Well, let me just tell you right now, today,
The numbers
as of
look
today,
pretty darn good, don't they?
Florida is the best in the nation when it comes to COVID. And what does that show you? When you give people the opportunity to choose how to live their life and protect their family, they choose wisely. No one cares about your family like you do.
Bingo.
And there are people that that maybe wouldn't have done what they did, but they were pushed, they rebelled, and they maybe took more chances than they normally would have, right?
Exactly.
Florida, I just read an article yesterday about, I guess I would put it this way, in your face, liberal eastern states.
Yeah.
Florida's numbers are right where everybody else wishes they were. So,
And I would say too, the treatment options for COVID. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything, but some of the stuff that these red states like Florida has done has been innovative, and it's been saving people's lives. And I think from a city and a state perspective, I don't understand why we're not doing those things. I don't get it.
everybody, there's such a feeling of protectionism. Don't go outside of the box because what's our liability? You have a city attorney there advising you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. Well, sometimes you should. We appreciate the legal input, and now we have to act on the betterment of the community. So,
And I mean, from a city perspective, our job is to represent the people of Yakima. And if I'm elected as District 6 City Council, I'm representing District 6. And speaking to protect their rights is, public safety, number one, protecting your rights, number two. And for me, looking at our businesses that have been shut down, and, the people who are losing their jobs right now, I look at the candidates I'm running against, and then the other candidates in the other districts. And one of the things I don't think a lot of people realize is they all were for the vaccine and for vaccine passports. That's terrifying if you're in a city of Yakima right now, because that's you want to go to dinner, show me your card.
No.
Yeah.
I got a card, but it wouldn't be.
The Monopoly get out of jail free cards don't count, Lance. How many times do we have to tell you that? Well, let's take a look at a couple of the ballot issues that the citywide involvement Prop 1 show up. Do your job. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. I'm surprised we don't have something like this already.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a candidate to go, I'm against that.
I mean, I'm just surprised there's already some RCW or something that says it. Only because in the private sector, you don't show up, you don't have a job. That's how it is. I'm definitely for Proposition 1. We need to put in there an attendance requirement. Every other board, too, just to be clear, every other board has an attendance requirement. I sit on the Republican board locally. There's an attendance requirement.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense.
Right.
I mean, duh. I guess another duh question for you on Prop 3.
Yeah.
Do you support the city enacting a local income, I guess a ban on a local income tax?
Yeah, no, I 100% am for a ban on local income tax. And some people would like to say, does this even have to be on a ballot? Does this even have to be there? Well, yes. If anything's been proven in 2020 is that there is nothing they will not stop pushing to try to change the way we do business in our state. And the fact that we have to put something like this in is sad, because in our own state constitution, it bans an income tax. Yeah. But you know what? We have to do what we have to do to protect ourselves. So,
because that's the reality. You're right, because that's the reality. No matter what the laws say, somebody will try if that's not in place. Let's talk about
homeless.
Housing. There's the city. Is it the city's responsibility? We've got a big housing problem in this city. What can be done? Do you think it's the city's responsibility, taxpayers' responsibility to help that problem, to build housing?
No, I don't believe the city should be building housing. I believe the city should be providing opportunities for builders to build housing. I've already talked to a few big development groups here in town. Their biggest frustration has been the city on trying to get stuff built. They're like, Matt, we've got billions of dollars ready to spend in Yakima, literally billions ready to throw into this town to build houses. And it has been a stopgap where they're confused. They're completely perplexed. They don't understand what is the problem here. And so an idea that I've had and I floated with is that for me, looking at, so we have a housing issue, not just in attainable housing for a young family, but single family homes. Not foams. Homes.
Everybody's got one of those.
Is life-changing for a lot of people. When you buy your first house, that's monumental. That's economic changing for you as a person. It's the best thing you can do is to buy your own home.
Well, it changes everything.
It changes everything.
You're now responsible. You've got to find the way to fix things. You've got to care for.
Right.
It changes the nature of the relationship with the people who live around you. You're right, Matt. And it is one of life's most monumental thing. And to have a city where that's not available to have happen and to create the sense of community that helps to create, that's a big deal.
Well, and families want to move into Yakima, and people are here who want to actually buy houses. I mean, I have family members who've been trying to buy a house for 3 years now and can't. So I mean, it's a huge issue. So one of my ideas is looking at, I don't like taking debt out in a city ever. Like our roads projects that we've done, that to me was a miss, because the roads were completely, we put a big bond on a road and they're completely worn out in 3 years. But for housing is a long-term investment. And so for me, I would look at how can we comp or take out a bond measure to look at 500 to 1,000 water sewage hookups for builders and say, hey, every year the city for the next 4 years or whatever is going to take these water sewage hookups, and we're going to do the hard work of that. We're going to pay for those. Long-term investment-wise, this is massive for our city. If we can, and this is not just housing, but this is full-on development, right? I want business development. There's lots of land out in West Valley, in District 6, where we can build housing, we can build schools, we can build businesses out there. All of those things, that is revenue generating for our city that lasts a lifetime of the city. It's not something that's going to be taken away,
Still got to pay for roads when the time comes, brother. But I hear what you're saying. That's a very interesting approach, and that's the huge expense businesses look at. The water sewage hookup thing, man, thousands of dollars. And
I mean, that's one of the things the builders have told me is like, from one of the biggest stopgaps for like someone buying a home to build has been like, well, the city's like, well, it costs like $25,000 to put a water sewage hookup. The family's like, oh, man, we barely qualified to even get this loan.
Yeah, the home loan.
That just one more thing is too much, And so
I guess we'll do without a roof, honey.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they, now they've downsized. They completely changed their whole thing so that they can just get the water sewage hookup.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Well, that's the kind of thought that we need to have more of, no question about it.
We got about 5 minutes left. If you are tuning in, thank you very much. We're talking to District 6 candidate, Yakima City Council candidate Matt Brown. Matt, homelessness. Got any answers? Homelessness in the valley? Probably don't see a lot of it in District 6.
No, we are starting to. It's coming further and further west. And for me, we have to look at who are the folks that are doing the hard work right now well. There's a lot of money that actually comes into our county for homelessness. We're actually, I think, one of the highest counties in the state that receives homeless money. And yet we still have this issue. We still have these problems. And so going back to my accountability piece is looking at, okay, so what are we doing with this? What are we doing with this money that is coming in? And who's in charge of this money, And why are we not seeing results? That's my big question, is why are we not seeing results? Because our community is tired of it as well. Now, as a pastor, I look at everything from that perspective of
Sure.
I care about the person as well. And my dad has been a chemical dependency counselor for over 50 years.
Really? Wow.
And I asked him a question on homelessness. I said, so how do we solve this issue, Dad? His response was, well, 90% of the homelessness issue is a drug problem or mental health problem, right? And typically the mental health problem stems from a drug problem. And so if you take the drugs away and you can treat the mental health problem, all of a sudden they can now function in society again. And so for me, it's looking at how could we, as an ordinance or a city, look at doing some of those type of requirements, looking at how can we get you through this system and actually get you back into society.
Double down, triple down on a Sundown M Ranch kind of scenario. I mean, if drug addiction, and I'm with you on that, is the place that it starts, the city would, if the city's going to have play a role in that, then they're going to have to find some ways to partner up. The city's not going to run, Yakima's own drug treatment center, but again, it gets back to that providing the infrastructure and cutting the red tape and those kinds
and
of
the
things,
system.
Right?
The city, as a city council person, you are running the city's business, right? You are the systems operator of the city,
right?
And it's your job to create the system to solve the problem.
Mike Johnson is director of the Yakima Union Gospel Mission, and I don't know if you know him, but
I know Mike.
Yeah, great guy, and he's probably listening right now, screaming at the radio about homelessness every time we do that. But I was getting an email from him or something. But I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to work with Mike, a great guy, and all of our other candidates and all of the city folks, man. Union Gospel Mission really doing a lot of great things in this valley for homelessness.
And there are a lot of them that are doing great stuff.
Got about a minute to go.
Yeah.
And much of what you've said, we've heard similarly put in terms of the nature of the problems, the potential solutions from your opponents. So differentiate yourself. What makes Matt Brown the vote to make in District 6?
Politics do matter. I would like to say that on the record is that we're seeing in our nation right now two different politics, right? We saw for the last 4 years one set of politics. We're seeing in this year a completely different set of politics, and it even matters at this local level. The way you think of a solution, the way you come to that conclusion, you either have a conservative mindset or a progressive mindset, and that matters. And I am the only Republican conservative running in District 6, and that to me matters in a community that is fairly conservative. If you would like those values transpired into our city council. Right now our city council, I heard a thing the other day where they were blaming our mayor for what's going on in crime. And I look at the city council and I go, we have 5, in my opinion, Democrats who sit on the council, and we have Patricia Byers, who is the lone conservative, and then one that doesn't show up. And so in my opinion, I go, do you want more of the same? Do you want more of the same? Because if you want more of the same, keep voting the way you're voting. If you want different, I'm your guy. Mark Shervey in 4, Edgar Hernandez in 2. We are the different makers when it comes to what we're trying to do this year.